Hello, Skelevaderites and friends of Skelevader. Welcome to episode 33. 33 of Weekly Weirdo. This week, I'm really excited to talk about the weirdo that I've chosen to talk about. The weirdo that I've chosen to talk about is actually multiple weirdos today, which happens on occasion. But first, how are you all doing? I see a couple of people are watching, which is awesome. And it's great to see that you're here. Having my tea from my special Star Wars mug in honor of today's selection. All right, Chef M80, good evening. Good to see you here. Carole Geis, great to see you. Happy birthday, by the way. Good. I'm glad you're all here. I'm glad that we're going to be talking about this today. As you saw from my my thumbnail that I created, or if you saw the thumbnail that I created for today's episode, what do you think the weekly weirdo or weirdos are going to be for today? And Ray, great to see you. Fantastic to see you. Also, you're welcome. Of course. Yeah. Hey, we got to celebrate birthdays, right? So actually, I think it was Masterversal Toy Hunter on Instagram submitted his guess as to what this week's weirdo is going to be. And we're going to reveal that in just a moment. John, figuratively speaking, great to have you here. Fantastic. Chef M80 is guessing Mandalorians. I think that's a pretty good guess based on Dog the Bounty Hunter, for sure. Well, you know what? There's several of these, so I say, what the heck? Let's jump right in. It's great to see you all here. Let's do this. So I'm going to start off as I usually do with in order of them showing up in my collection. This first figure is representative of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 of these guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, 6. And Mandalorian is somewhat correct, to be honest with you. We are headed into Star Wars territory today. In fact, focusing on 6 of my favorite characters that sparked curiosity in me as a kid. I loved these characters for what they represented. Mystery, really. At the time, the only Star Wars film that I had had the opportunity to see in the movie theater was Empire Strikes Back. At that stage in my life, when I was just getting into collecting Star Wars action figures as much as I could do as a kid. These characters really stood out to me. And Empire Strikes Back is still by far my favorite Star Wars film of the entire franchise. Every time I rewatch it, I just think it's perfect in so many ways. JMax77, great to see you. All right. Yeah, so these 6 characters, they barely made an appearance in the film. One of these characters had shown up a couple times in that movie, Empire Strikes Back, and then also in Return of the Jedi, and has since become the most popular of these 6. So I'm going to start off in order of these figures showing up in my collection. Now, I had some of these as a kid. Some of them actually belonged to my stepbrother, my older stepbrother at the time. So they came and went from my life pretty quickly. And then, but as an adult collector, the first one that I was able to reacquire was in Black Series form. And if any of you collect Black Series figures, I'm pretty proud of this one in particular because my wife talked me into getting him. He's actually from the first run of Black Series. Um, uh, Not first wave, but first bunch of Black Series figures to come out. Boba Fett, this is the first version of Boba Fett to be released. And I saw him on the shelf, numerous times and ignored him and ignored him, ignored him. Finally got him. And so, this started it all. I started going down the rabbit hole again, and and even though I'd watched Empire Strikes Back hundreds of times, I hadn't sought out, collecting the vintage figures or recollecting the vintage figures. So when I got this guy, I was like, oh man, this is doing it to me. And then I started thinking about the other guys, and I've already done a weekly weirdo on the next guy, so I'm gonna just jump right into him. But this is this is actually the order, so it works out perfectly. This was the first reacquisition of a Empire Strikes Back bounty hunter into my collection. This is Boba Fett from the Black Series. Then the next one I ran across was at a Rite Aid, and it was the first version of IG-88 to come out in the Black Series. And if you heard me talk about IG-88 on the previous Weekly Weirdo, where I did discuss this particular character and his importance, he carries multiple levels of importance for me. I was in a punk band called IG-88 in the 90s. And so when I found this character at Rite Aid, I couldn't resist it. I do have a few complaints about the design of this particular version of IG-88, but I won't get into that today. For those of you that are big fans of IG-88, you already know probably. But his little rubber pieces have already dissolved and fallen off, but that's okay. Pretty happy to have this in my collection. Then there was a bit of a pause in my collecting of Star Wars bounty hunters. I was happy with these two in my collection. And then I ran across two figures in a bin at an antique store. I think they were like $3 each. Just a ridiculously low price. I was able to get Boba Fett or reacquire the vintage Boba Fett. And yes, this is the vintage Boba Fett. He's even had some wear and tear on him, which I don't mind for vintage figures. And in fact, I don't like it if there's a lot of wear and tear, like chewed off parts and stuff like that. But if the paint is missing, for at least for Boba Fett and for some of these guys, it shows that they've been a bit battle damaged. And the other figure that was in that bin was IG-88. So there were a few others too that I picked up. I'll go over those in the future, but these two I picked up in that super discounted bin at an antique store. So that's the order of those two figures. And then after that, the Black Series started to release the other bounty hunters. And I actually hunted these down a little bit. I was very interested in getting the Black Series versions of these characters. The first one that I picked up was Bosk. This is the first Black Series version of Bosk. I know there have been a few versions of him, but he has an articulated jaw, which made me really happy. I picked him up, and then subsequently I picked up, none of their weapons are here, they're in a little baggie. I picked up Dengar right after that, and then I picked up Zuckuss after that. And I want to just take a moment of appreciation for the sculpt of Zuckuss. He is remarkable. Absolutely a beautiful sculpt for a Black Series figure. Human faces, Black Series is hit and miss, but some of these alien faces or mechanical faces are just spot on usually. And right after that, Forlom came out. And I know there's some, you know, traditionalists that might want to call Forlom Zuckus and Zuckus Forlom because of misprinted packaging back in the day. But this Forlom was really impressive to me. I don't know if you can see if I put the light behind. Let me see if I put the light here. Let's see. The light behind his head. Yeah, the green, there's like translucent green plastic. Pretty good. And I discovered that on accident. And another thing that I discovered was that the arm joint has this part right here slides up and down the forearm. So it's the articulation is really cool. They paid a lot of attention to this particular figure. Now, I like Black Series, but I don't have a lot of Black Series figures anymore. I got rid of a bunch of them simply because right after I picked these up, I got the itch to recollect the remaining Bounty Hunters vintage. Let's see here. We got Skyfall here. Great to see you. You will be able to recreate the Bounty Hunter scene from, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And Oz, yes, Bounty Hunters do rule. Yes. So great to see you, Oz. Great to see you, Skyfall, too. That's awesome that you guys are here. So then I got the itch to pick up vintage versions of these Black Series figures. The next one, though, that popped into my sphere was the retro collection. I think they're calling it retro collection. Yeah, the retro collection re-release of Boba Fett. So I've got the brand new vintage version Boba Fett and the vintage version of Boba Fett. And he's obviously in better condition because he's never been played with. But it's pretty amazing. He's the only one of these that I've gotten from the Bounty Hunters. But he is really like, I believe I don't know that, hopefully there'll be a documentary one of these days on how they recreated these, but he's basically the exact same figure. And then on eBay, I went ahead and subsequently ordered a vintage Forlom, a vintage Zuckus. Both Forlom and Zuckus are missing their weapons, but for Zuckus, for example, I sacrificed that in order to get him with his cloak, his sort of faux leather cloak and his chest harness. Forlom, on the other hand, he was people were asking some hefty prices for him. But I got him. He was very affordable. I think like $10. And then Zuckus without their weapons, but I'm stoked to have them. And then right after that, I found Dengar for a really good price on eBay as well. And the last one I picked up was Bosk. And Bosk actually does have his weapon here. And IG-88 has his weapon too. I had to repurchase IG-88's weapon separately, but Bosk's weapon came with him, which is cool. Bosk is actually getting a little sticky as his plastic is aging. The other figures, not so much. Like Boba Fett's kind of sticky a little bit, but not much. The rest of them, not at all. Yeah, I don't know what they did to Bosk, but he's getting a little sticky. And that always makes me nervous with these figures. In fact, as we were pulling out our Halloween decorations right before the holiday, or as we do a month before the holiday, I pulled out my Freddy Krueger NECA figure, and he's already getting sticky. When figures that are fairly new, within the last 10 years or so, already get sticky and the plastic starts to disintegrate, I get a little disappointed actually with those. And one of the things that was most disappointing about this IG-88 was that his elbows and knees, the rubber that was there, just fell apart. Not too long after getting him, maybe 3 years after getting him. But one of my big complaints, just coming back to here, maybe I will jump into the complaint department just a little bit. But the head sculpt on this IG-88 is not quite accurate enough for my liking. I would much prefer to have an IG-88 that is film accurate, uh, and um, and I think they may have improved him since then. I just haven't done the research. In fact, I think that the vintage action figure is more accurate to the film version than the Black Series one. Um, Details, of course, minor details that the Black Series one has that the vintage one doesn't, but the head sculpt, at least in on this one, is more like the movie. All right, we've got let's see, I thought I saw somebody else pop in. Oh yeah, Black Phoenix 77, great to see you. So yeah, I wanted to just take a moment of appreciation for the bounty hunters from the Star Wars film franchise, and talk about how much they meant to me. So I'm gonna just take a moment and talk about that a little bit. I'm going to go back to what I started mentioning at the beginning today, which was that there was a lot of mystery behind them. Boba Fett was an entire mystery to all of us. Even previous to The Empire Strikes Back coming out, we were seeing Boba Fett around, and who is this guy? The cartoon from the Christmas special, of course, revealed that he was a bounty hunter, but we didn't really know what was going on and what was underneath the mask. And none of these figures have ever been, none of these characters have really been given a lot of exposure in the Star Wars universe, except for Boba Fett. Obviously, we've got the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, and we have an obsession with the Mandalorian armor and the Mandalorian lore. And I think that's proven over time to become more popular. And then we had a version of Forlom show up in was that Book of Boba Fett as well, or was that Andor? My brain is like farting out now because there's been so many television shows now on Disney Plus. We got a version of Forlom and found out when the action figure came out that he was not Forlom. He was just another bounty hunter that looked like Forlom. And honestly, I'm good with that. Like, I don't need backstories of all these characters, really. I love that there's mystery behind Zuckuss. And I know there's books out there that tell stories about these characters and dig deeper into their lives and stuff like that. But I love that in Empire Strikes Back, when that movie came out and when I was watching it on repeat as a kid, I had no idea who these guys were. What was their driving, and what was driving them besides just the money making of being a bounty hunter, and what were they previously. And as I was playing out there, in the weeds with these figures, I could create my own stories behind them. I think I'm okay with the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian shows. I'm okay with them. I had a lot of complaints about the Book of Boba Fett. That's a whole other deal. But I I appreciate the nostalgia, the nostalgia dumps that Book of Boba Fett especially did with the Rancor and all the stuff, and going back into Jabba's palace and those things. And Return of the Jedi is another one of my favorites from the Star Wars franchise. And hey, we got Eric Perryman. Great to see you. So yeah, I would prefer them to be left alone at this stage. Let us have our own relationships with these characters. Part of me gets a little bit sad when I think about how much of Boba Fett now is not a mystery. And so, but what's great about all that stuff is you can choose to align with those ideas or choose to not align with them. And sometimes I just watch Empire Strikes Back and I revel in the mystery and I relive those feelings. And I just absolutely love that scene where they're all standing there and barely moving, and they're very intimidating. The music is creating tension, and you just think these guys are badass. Like, what are they? Where are they from? What are they up to? Yes, Oz, I've heard that. Now, I've never read that book, but I'm maybe one of these days I'll get around to it. At the same time, I'm like, I feel like I hope it doesn't change my relationship with them. And Duchess, great to see you here. Fantastic to see you. So yeah, today's weekly weirdos were the bounty hunters, and there's a couple of other Black Series figures that I have on my roster for the Weekly Weirdo series that I want to get around to. The few that I have kept, and the reasons why I've kept them. And so, eventually we'll get into Return of the Jedi territory as well, because it's one of my favorites, and there's a lot to talk about there. But I want to thank you all so much for being here today and diving into another batch of weirdos with me. And I just want to say to those of you that are here, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. And for those of you that are patrons of this channel, it goes without saying, I deeply appreciate your patronage. And if you're interested in becoming a patron of this channel, the link is right down below. I've got if you click on that link, it'll give you a lot of information about what your options are. But $3 a month, even though it's not written on the benefits of what you get for $3 a month, I will make you a character painting of your choice, and send you a character painting. It's kind of a one-time gift for those new patrons, but if you're interested in contributing, you're welcome to it. You don't have to. You being here is enough for me. It makes me so happy. Yes, Skyfall, no disintegrations. Absolutely. So yeah, so that's it. I have a deep appreciation for these bounty hunters, deep appreciation for the strangest characters from the Star Wars universe, and some of these characters definitely are. Forlom and Zuckuss are, definite achievements in the Black Series. Yeah, Dengar is pretty great too. I didn't talk a lot about Dengar today, but I kind of love this guy. He's definitely been through the ringer, but there's something about him. The bulkiness of his backpack and his outfit. He must get overheated, but maybe he needs it. Love that. I'm sure Oz can tell me more since he's read the Tales of the Bounty Hunters book. But these figures are great, and I'll always love them. And eventually I'll get my hands on some of these weapons that I'm missing from the vintage line, but I'm perfectly happy with the way that they are. They sit right back here. Whoop, right back here. There's a shelf here that's empty now, where they were standing before with my other vintage Star Wars figures. Just love it. I love the vintage design of the figures, and that's part of the reason why I am a fan of the reaction line too, from Super 7, is that 5 points of articulation, the stiffness, the basic design, the simple color applications. Love it. And these bounty hunters exemplify that. They are very cool. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for being here. I appreciate all of you for being here and watching with me. And let's see. Oh, we've got, we don't know what we're going to be talking about this next Toy Frenzy, but we'll come up with something good for you. So be sure to tune in this Thursday night for another episode of Toy Frenzy. And if you are all, I think Legions Con is still going on right now. Maybe it's coming to a close right at this moment, maybe. But if you're over there and you're watching this, thank you so much. And if you're there and you're not watching this because you're there, that's awesome. I hope you're having a great time. Let's see. Oz says Han Solo caused him to get into a swoop bike race that caused him serious injury. Yes, that's true. Yeah. Does that explain why he has to wear so many clothes and layers? I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they're like wound dressings that have to be permanent. Also, another adorable thing about Dengar is he's wearing little like slippers, like house slippers. Hilarious. Yeah, and Bosk is great. He's great too. I ran across a rubber mask of him at Walmart about 2 years ago, and I avoided it and immediately regretted it because he has one of the best face designs. That would be a cool rubber mask. Anyways, thank you all for being here. I've said that like 10 times, but I'll see you in the next video, and I'll see you on Thursday night, if not before. Oh, it's still going. I thought I ended it. All right, there we go.